What is this? Is Scott in the hospital with the nose?
No, he's in the change room. He's fine.
His nose is broken, right?
Yeah, just
He's not going to go get checked out in the hospital?
No, the doctors signed him off.
Did he pushed it to the side? Or?
Yeah, they'll have to reset the nose. So,
but he's definitely broken though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the injury with the foot?
Listen, it just in camp he had a bit of a problem with his foot. But
what is the problem?
I don't know. Maybe a stress fracture. But it was maybe a stress fracture, but it was nothing that was going to keep him out of the fight. He had to adapt his training. That was all.
At least it wasn't a toe.
No, it wasn't a toe.
You like that one?
Was it a stress fracture?
Yeah.
Which foot?
Right foot.
Right foot stress fracture. So is that why? Would you attribute that to the weight loss? Not
yeah, I mean, he couldn't do certain things for a small period. He could still train. He could still spar. It wasn't that it was going to keep him out of the fight, but he just had to adapt. But there is no one more professional than Scott Quigg at making weight, at training, at everything. And it devastated him that he couldn't make the weight because he got so much criticism back home. Because British fans are a little bit like that. They love to jump on you when you've done something wrong. And I just hope tonight they watch that performance and give him the respect that he deserves because, he apologised for not making the weight. It was very unprofessional and it was very out of character, Scott Quigg. But he backed it up with a performance that he went above and beyond the call of duty.
Eddie, with that said, why didn't he do a second day weigh-in to even out the score? Because a lot of times when a guy doesn't make weight, they say, you know what, all right, there may have been a legitimate reason. But I've also seen other situations where you do a morning of weigh-in to balance the scales. That your guy was a welterweight tonight. Is that really a fair fight?
No, well, he wasn't a welterweight tonight because
142.2.
no, you don't have a welterweight tonight. There's no one in a weight class that's the same weight tonight. That's ridiculous.
But your guy was 142.
Yeah, but he weighs 140 every time he fights. So he was £2 over.
Is that when he makes weight? Because one guy had to make. So you're saying that you think that Oscar Valdez had an easier time with what he had to do, stretching himself out the last couple of pounds of the toughest.
Hold on, Steve. Our boy had to go for a camp with a stress fracture in his foot trying to make weight. Right. He was in a terrible physical condition on the scale trying to make weight. Trust me, it was no benefit to him having that camp that he had and stripping himself down to try and make weight yesterday.
So Eddie, you'll be consistent. The next time one of your fighters has a guy that doesn't make weight, you'll say, you know what, we don't need to have a morning of weight.
Every situation is different. And my job is...
Yeah, your situation here, because here's the thing. The guy has a broken jaw. It was a rough fight. I congratulate both guys. I like Scott. But I do think it's a little bit of an imbalance when one guy makes weight, right? One guy doesn't. Your guy didn't come close. But that's the other thing. Yeah. So now when you weigh in again, if one guy has to kind of stretch himself to make the last couple of rounds.
You need to speak to the commission and maybe get some rules in place. The situation is, we were asked to weigh in on Saturday. Scott Quigg said, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Eddie.
Right, listen.
Do I think that's right or wrong? I don't think it was wrong of Top Rank or Valdez's team to request it. It's very normal to request a second day weigh-in in that instance. Scott Quigg said, you know what? I've had the worst camp going. I've stripped myself down to make this weight. To be honest with you, if the fight's off, the fight's off.
Right. Well, last thing, I don't want to hijack this whole thing. So would you have had a problem if the Espinosa camp... Well, okay, you're right.
No, go on, I like this.
If Valdez would have said, you know what, okay, you don't want to do it, walked away, would you have been okay with that? Would you have understood their reasoning if that was the decision?
Having known what they probably knew, I would have been very surprised if they walked away from the fight.
Okay, fair enough.
Having known the camp, because they knew the camp that Scott Quigg had, and they knew that he wasn't in the best shape he could possibly be, and they knew that he was struggling at the weight all night and all day yesterday. So it wasn't like, but just believe me on one thing, it wasn't like Scott Quigg woke up and said, oh, you know what, I'm not going to make the weight, I won't try, because I witnessed him try, and it wasn't pretty. So he's a very stubborn individual. I don't necessarily agree with him refusing a second day weigh-in, and I honestly believe that if he would have not been through what he went through in camp, he would have done the second day weigh-in. But it was a situation where he said, listen, I've had enough. I've done everything I can to be here and to try and make the weight, and I'm not going for it, trying to hold my weight and do it again.
Okay. Eddie, when did Scott break his nose?
I believe it was like the sixth, seventh round, something like that. I mean, he had a great round in the fifth round, where he hurt Valdez badly, and and then he got cut, and it set him back a little bit. But Valdez, I was hoping and praying and expecting Valdez to weaken down the stretch, but he didn't. You know, and both guys showed unbelievable heart. It was a brilliant fight.
Eddie, why do you think Valdez was the superior fighter tonight?
Well, so many different reasons. Footwork, footwork, jab, body shots were incredible. I said to Scott Quigg in there just now, how badly hurt were you to the body? And he said, once. I said, are you sure? Because that hurt me every time. Right. Sitting there. Brilliant shot selection, great engine. He boxed off the back foot for most of the fight and again, moved so much in the fight. And to keep going at that rate with a broken jaw. I mean, don't forget, all right, Scott Quigg had a broken nose. Valdez had a broken jaw. And by the way, Scott Quigg broke his jaw against Carl Frampton in the 3rd round in their fight. So these guys, both guys aren't human. But I think Valdez showed that he's an excellent fighter. And how many times do you see Oscar Valdez in a bad fight? You don't.
Were you a little surprised that the one judge had it? So, I mean, they were all kind of wide, but the 118 and 2.
Was it 118, 110?
Yeah, it seemed a little.
I had it 116, 112, something like that. You had it 115. Yeah, you had it 115, 113.
I had it 16,
For
12.
Valdez.
Yeah, but you're a controversial judge. I mean, I've never seen you have a good scorecard.
He's a boxing
guy. 116. I mean, Scott knows he lost the fight.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, but I just like 10-2 seemed a bit wide. That's
yeah, no, I gave Scott 4 rounds, maybe 5 rounds.
Eddie, so with him being able to withstand those body shots and everything, like Steve was saying, do you think that the weight did help him
Honestly,
at the end of the night?
right, the weight is a load of bullshit. He was 2.5. We would have preferred that he was fit and healthy and made the weight well. Not, you know, and he's a bit heavier than he'd like to be in the ring tonight. It wasn't a plan. I read some rubbish. They were saying, oh, do you think he's coming heavy deliberately? The only reason we took this fight was to try and win a world title. And people say, oh, do you reckon he should come in deliberately? Like, what would be the point of that? You don't want to come in heavy. He's never been heavy. He's a 122 pounder, moving to 126. He's not even a big featherweight. It was a disaster for him to be overweight. And he was too heavy tonight. But, you know, no one has a perfect camp. Despite what people say, everybody has injuries in camp. I'm sure Valdez hasn't probably had niggles and injuries in his camp. But you go through it, they both did. And it was a fair fight and the better man won.
Do these fights, like Luke Campbell losing that tough fight to Linares and then Quigg tonight, does that deter you at all from continuing to come to the United States? Or?
No, I mean, I actually thought the Campbell-Linares fight was a draw. But tonight, the right man won. But nothing deters me. But it encourages me because they're both great fights. The thing is, the good news now is, and we have to put pressure on the fighters and the managers and the advisors to get them to take fights like tonight. Because when Carl Moretti phoned me about Scott Quigg, I couldn't believe they asked. Like, you didn't have to fight Scott Quigg, and I asked for a lot of money, and they gave it to him. So they could have got someone a lot easier and a lot cheaper. But they're trying to put on great fights, and they got it right tonight, and it's a big win for boxing, and a big win for Top Rank and ESPN. Same thing that we've got to try and do, but it's not just, we need the help of the promoters, the managers and the advisors and the fighters to make sure that the fighters are willing to step up and understand that losing is never the end of the world. If Scott Quigg would have boxed tonight against someone no one's ever heard of and he won a unanimous decision, his stock would have just flatlined. He lost to Oscar Valdez and his stock rose. American television would probably like Scott Quigg back in a fight. Britain said, wow, Scott Quigg's great to watch, so it will come again. You mustn't be afraid of losing, but if you're good enough, you won't lose. But we have to keep pushing the boundaries and make sure that these fighters are in tough fights, because the only one that gets punished if they're not is the promoters, because we get moaned at.
Eddie, where do you want to see Quigg, Scott, go from here after what happened?
Hospital.
Well, in terms of the future, do you want him to stay at 126 or?
Yeah, he's fine at 126. Yeah. I mean, I know obviously he missed the weight, but he shouldn't move up to super featherweight. He was a super bantamweight world champion who moved to featherweight, and that's where he should stay. It's a very difficult division with a lot of elite fighters. Scott Quigg's a world-class fighter, but he boxed an elite level fighter tonight. It was too good for him. So can he win a world title? Yes. Who against is another story. You know, I believe he can beat the likes of Lee Selby and Josh Warrington, who are fighting for the IBF world title. You know, yeah, the WBC title's vacant. Bantamweight. I'm losing my marbles here. Featherweight, you've got a great world champion at WBC. But you know, I think that Scott Quigg can be a world champion, but in a division where there's such outstanding fighters, sometimes you can't beat him. And he wasn't good enough to beat Oscar Valdez tonight. Could have boxed a slightly cuter fight. Wouldn't have got as much praise, but you know he wasn't good enough for Oscar Valdez tonight.
Eddie, it seems like Valdez's jaw is broken. Did Scott know that at any point? Did he?
Not really. I told him after the fight. He seemed a bit surprised, but he's had a broken jaw himself. The mouth was bleeding a lot. Scott Quigg had a bad cut on his eye as well, which wasn't helping him. He obviously broke his nose. So both guys were, you know, handicapped in the fight, and no one cared. That was the remarkable thing about it, you know, that they were both injured badly and handicapped in the fight, and they both carried on even harder than they did before.
Was that?
Remember what I said to you when you made the fight?
No.
Remember how excited I was?
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for showing up.
Scott's not coming out?
No.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I'll never.